Hello, everybody, and welcome in to episode 93, Dorton and Duck Debate Podcast. I'm Lucas. Babyface Nick here just shaved, so he looks like he's 12 again. So welcome, Babyface Nick. And Matt Marek, player manager of the Champlin Park LoGators. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me. Been looking forward to it. A little disappointed you had Vanderbosch on before me, but that's all right. So.
Yeah, hey, that's on me. That's on scheduling. It was tough.
I get it. I get it. It's all right.
Well, save the best for last. That's kind of the way I was.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
That's what I was thinking. So that's awesome. Cool. Sweet, man. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a good time. Like I mentioned, I mean, this has been something that's been in the works for a while now. So I'm happy we were able to lock something down and ready to dive into it. So it's good.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Usually after the state tournament, I kind of shut up. I kind of turn off the Townball button for a month or two, and then this is about the time a year we start doing the scheduling for next year, and the itch starts to come back a little bit. So it's good to be talking with you guys and talking a little ball. So
absolutely scratch that itch
like
a little
bit, yeah.
Good stuff. So. Sweet. Well, before we get going, if you've seen any of the shows we've done in the past, it's just kind of like to get to know you and kind of, everyone has different baseball backgrounds and not necessarily everyone has the same interests in baseball that everyone else does, but it's cool just to ask. So first question for you, Matt, who is your favorite Major League Baseball team? I'm going to assume the Twins unless I'm wrong.
No, you got it. Minnesota Twins through and through. Yeah, I was born and raised in East Grand Forks. So, basically, Minnesota sports teams through and through. It's, you being from East Grand Forks, we always made it a point to make it down to the Metrodome, at least once or twice a year. But yeah, ever since I was a kid, I've just, had an incredible passion for baseball and the game. My dad played at the University of North Dakota.
Wow.
And my younger brother also played at the University of North Dakota as well. So, and my dad's brother, my uncle, he also played at the University of North Dakota. So yeah, I mean, it runs in the family, and it's always been, kind of the thing that, I've always wanted to, spend most of my time around and doing. So, and, being, I just turned 40 years old this year, and I've been, lucky enough to be, involved with the game. Yeah, I can't believe I made it either. But yeah, I've just been lucky enough to be involved in the game basically, just about every summer of my life up until now. So, yeah, and it's been a great ride. I've done a lot of cool things, played with a lot of great guys, and had a lot of great experiences. So, yeah, wouldn't trade for anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's probably the best answer I've ever gotten for that. So that's cool. That's awesome to hear. No, it's really cool. So who is your all-time favorite Minnesota Twins player?
Oh man, that's a great question. I was I like to be contrarian, as a little kid. So if you go to my Twitter profile, my profile picture is actually Shane Mack on Team USA back when he played for Team USA. I don't know. I always, that 91 season, my dad took me to game one of the ALCS and game one of the World Series that year. But, obviously everybody loved Kirby. So, I mean, and I loved him as a player too, but for whatever reason, I always had a thing for Shane Mack. So that's probably one that's a little, out of left field too.
Yeah, that's the first Shane Mack we've gotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the last.
Probably, I would guess so. But, yeah, I mean, like currently, I mean, I if he could stay healthy, I mean, Royce Lewis, I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, I think we're trending towards Byron Buxton 2.0. It feels like right now, but
seems that way.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's yeah. Like I said, I was a little contrarian when I was a kid. So I mean, it was Shane Mack always for some reason. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So that maybe will answer another one of my questions. Maybe not. And maybe you'll think of someone else. So another question I usually like to ask is, who is your all-time favorite, like most obscure player that maybe wasn't, a Hall of Famer or anything, but you really appreciated? But it sounds like we maybe have our answer, unless there's someone else that comes to mind for you for that.
Yeah, that's a great. The one rando. If you're talking Twins, the one random guy that I always think about. And I've had this discussion with my buddies before, and Pedro Munoz has got to be the random one that always sticks out to me for some reason. I think he had one or two like 20 or 30 home run seasons for the Twins. I can't remember what it was, but like that he would probably be my favorite random one, I would say.
Shane Mack and Pedro Nunez.
A heck of a 1-2 there. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. And then the last one for you. Who is your favorite all-time non-Minnesota Twin player? So it could have been someone who maybe played with the Twins at one point, but they're largely known for playing the majority of their career elsewhere.
Oh boy. Boy, that's a great question. I'm a catcher. I always like Pudge.
Yeah.
Von Rodriguez. I really like Buster Posey too. I think those are two of them. Just being a catcher, I kind of gravitate towards that position.
Pudge was so good.
And those guys. So probably one of those two guys, just in terms of like non-Twins. I kind of followed Daniel Murphy too a lot, just because he played in my conference in college.
Wow.
And I'm trying to think. Yeah, he was kind of the one I always kind of followed too, just for that.
He had that insane postseason run that one year, like 2015 or something like that.
I can't remember the year, but yeah. And I think it was the same. It's funny, it's the same sort of deal too, because I think he was kind of banged up going into those playoffs. And my senior year, we played his team in the first round of the conference tournament, and we didn't nobody thought he was going to play because he was hurt. He'd been hurt for a month. And sure enough, he comes off the bench, in extra innings, and walks us off, and sends us to the losers bracket and eventually home. So I always kind of followed him a little bit, just playing against him for a few years in college too. So I can't remember the year, but I want to say you might be right. It might be 15 or something like that when he had that run in the postseason. I'd have to look, but that sounds right. We'll go with it.
Yeah, 2015, lock it in. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. No, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, everyone gives a little bit of different answers. I think yours are going to be the most, out there out of all of them. But I love it.
I tried.
No, that's great.
I tried.
That's great. And me as being a Rockies fan too, I would have never heard of some of those guys. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sweet.
My little league team for 3 years was the Rockies. So, that was, we always, as kids, it's, we're the Rockies. So we always followed the Rockies a little bit too. So it's interesting you say you're a Rockies fan. So,
well, hopefully your little league team is better than the current major league team.
Well, we had a little more success. So
I would say, Oh boy. Yeah. Gotta love it. Cool. Awesome. So this is going to kind of segue into something you talked about a little bit before, but your dad playing collegiate baseball, your uncle playing, your little brother. But to me, it kind of sounds like it's something that you've just always grown up in, and it's just kind of always been a thing. Like, baseball is just kind of what we do. Is that kind of how you first got into baseball, or where did your, I guess, love for the sport kind of begin?
Yeah, I mean, it was through my dad. So my dad was he was a high school science teacher, and just a coach. He coached. He went to, well, like I said, he went to the University of North Dakota. He actually moved to Australia for a couple years, and then he came back and he taught at his alma mater, East Grand Forks Sacred Heart, and basically he coached everything. It was he ended up he was on the football staff, I know, for a while. He was head coach, head girls basketball coach for 20 years. And then when I was I'm trying to think, seventh grade, that's when the school actually started the baseball and softball program. And he ended up he didn't want to, appear to play, favorites and that sort of thing. He was the athletic director at the time too. So, but yeah, at that time, he didn't want to do that and kind of appear to play favorites. So he took the softball team, and being that I was playing baseball. But yeah, I mean, just being the son of a coach and a teacher, it's you just kind of grow up around it, and you're constantly around around a ball or a bat or a track or a field or that sort of thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many, when I was like, when I was a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, how many, practices I tagged along, with him too. And, like I said, he had the keys to the building. So, anytime I wanted to go to the gym or, do that sort of thing, that was always, kind of available to me. And, I mean, I even remember, as I got a little bit older, and I guess that's one of the nice things about going to a private school. There's not as much kind of red tape, with the facilities and that sort of thing. So like, you would literally just give me the key of the school, and I just like ride my bike to school, and shoot hoops or bring the cage down and hit, or whatever. So I mean, it just I was just around sports, and athletics kind of my whole life. So, like I played basketball and football in high school too. So, it's just, it's one of those things, just grew up around, and, you just, grow to love it, and, grow to love the competition. And, as you get older, you kind of, appreciate, the relationships and the camaraderie and that sort of thing. A little bit more and a little bit more, and, kind of by the time you're my age, that's kind of, the best part about it is, just being around the boys, and, doing something you've been doing your whole life. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, like I said, in the blood.
Yep.
It's never left, never will, I'm sure. So
that's awesome. So you mentioned a little bit about your collegiate baseball career. So talk to me about that process. What was that like being in high school? I assume you probably had some offers to go to a few different spots. Ultimately, what was your calling to where you ended up playing college ball?
yeah, so it's interesting because this is back. I graduated high school in 2002. So kind of the recruiting process started to happen kind of at the end of my sophomore year. That sort of thing. Just getting some calls here and there from schools. And I'm trying to remember who I talked to in high school. I know Wayne State, I talked to quite a bit, Mankato a little bit. But kind of what, I ended up going to Iowa Central Community College for my first 2 years of school. And it's kind of an interesting story, kind of how that happened. My dad, so this is the fall of my senior year. My dad got like a flyer from Northern Iowa baseball, and you know how these schools do, like their ID camps nowadays and that sort of thing. It wasn't quite as I don't remember it being quite as common back then than it is today. That sort of thing. A lot of the showcases and that, all that's going on in high school, and recruiting and that sort of thing. But anyway, my dad got a flyer in the mail, and he just like, it was 2 weeks before the camp. He's like, hey, you know, you want to go to this camp on, you know, Saturday, September, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, you know, let's do it. And yeah, it was yeah, I went down, I had a football game Friday night, woke up at I think 5 or 6 in the morning to drive to Cedar Falls to play, you know, kind of do this camp. And you know, I just had I just had a really good camp. Just my first at bat, first pitch I saw, I hit off the wall in left field. You know, I had a triple that day, which like I'm a catcher, I'm slow as crap. But you know, I had one that day, so you know, I played well enough, and kind of out of that, I had, you know, a couple other schools calling me kind of after that camp. I know Ellsworth was one, but Iowa Central was they were definitely the most persistent and seemed to be the most interested. And at that time, Iowa Central, I think, was in the middle of like three straight World Series appearances or something like that. Wow. So yeah, I mean, I went down and visited. But I mean, and you know, I really wanted to go to UND too. I just never, you know, the coach never really, he never really called me. He didn't, you know, he did until it was like super late in the recruiting process. And I just don't know if he thought it was a foregone conclusion that I was going to go there.
Right.
But I just remember the recruiting call from the coach from UND at the time. Like he kind of led with, well, we'd like you to redshirt next year. And I'm like, well, I can go to junior college and play for 2 years. And I mean, maybe win a national championship.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'll just do that. And yeah, it worked out. It couldn't have worked out kind of any better. You know, my freshman year, our number 1 and number 2 pitchers went to Nebraska and Texas A&M, and both got drafted. And we made it to the national championship game my freshman year. And you know, I was a starting catcher, and you know, played well. And you know, it's like, you know, and growing up in East Grand Forks too, it's like, I'm like, you know, not that I had self-doubt or anything like that, but it's just like
new level.
I was smart enough to know. Yeah, I was smart enough to know, like, I know this is probably the worst section in high school baseball. You know, I just know. And it's like, I mean, I don't know if I could, you know, there's always like, well, how good am I? I mean, right. So, yeah. But I ended up playing well down Iowa Central. And my coaches, you know, I was still thinking well, I'll just go back to UND. And my coach was like, well, you can go somewhere better than that. I'm like, cool, let's do it. So, kind of went through the recruiting process again my sophomore year, and I ended up at Campbell University, which is in North Carolina. You know, did 2 years there.
Aren't they like the Camels or something like that?
Yeah, you bet. Fighting Camels, baby.
What a pull.
Fighting Camels. That is a pull.
I remember their logo from March Madness a couple years ago.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no, it was Fighting Camels. Do you know the mascot's name?
I do not.
Gaylord. Gaylord the camel.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Gaylord the camel. Speaking of old twin, or was it Gaylord and Jim Perry? Both played at Campbell. So, so I don't know. I don't know if they named the mascot after Gaylord Perry.
Maybe.
I don't know, but I'd like to think maybe. I don't know. But
Jim Perry was he was a heck of a twin he was a twin for quite a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He was awfully good.
Yeah. So I mean, 2 years there, and just got to play against a lot of good competition. Like I said, like Daniel Murphy was in the conference. You know, we played North Carolina and North Carolina State every year, and it was a good experience. You know, I was catcher, split time with another guy. Didn't quite have the team success that that I had in the past, which was a little tough because it was kind of the first time in my life that I would, we weren't, battling for a championship or something like that. But if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't change much. I think everything kind of worked out, as best as it could for me, I guess, from, a career standpoint. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, Carolina's kind of a hotbed for baseball, honestly. So I'm sure sure you ran into plenty good players down there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I want to say I think there's like 17 or 18 Division I schools in North Carolina.
Yeah, there's
something
a lot.
like that.
Like I said,
Yeah.
like going back to March Madness, I know, we're talking baseball, obviously, but I see like UNC Greensboro, Wilmington, and then there's East Carolina and Campbell. There's so many. I'm like, how big is this state?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, there's no professional baseball team.
No.
The basketball NBA's kind of been, I think that Charlotte was gone for a while and came back, if I remember right.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a college athletics state, from my experience. A lot of my teammates, obviously from North Carolina, cared a lot more about, Carolina basketball or Duke basketball or, you name it, they care it. Kind of the pro sports allegiances were all over the map too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of Braves fans, a lot of Orioles fans. Yeah, definitely just like sports fandom in North Carolina. It seemed like, and I would imagine it's probably the same all over, just a lot stronger passions for the college teams than, any professional team out there. So, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, 17 Division I teams out there. I get it. And
yeah,
with kind of the Duke State and Carolina all within like 10 miles of each other.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Too. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, but I mean, it was great though. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I missed it. Obviously there's a couple of inches of snow on the ground. We're in Andover right now, but it's nights like these. I kind of miss living out there. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So then Townball, obviously kind of the theme of the show here. How did you first get into that? Was that something that that was a thing in North Dakota when you were growing up, or was that more post-college career? So talk to me a little bit about that and how you first got into Townball then.
Yeah, so I mean, it was, well, first of all, in North Dakota it's pretty non-existent. But, obviously, as you probably know, East Grand Forks is on the Minnesota side. So I was, after my senior year, I came back home for the summer. And all the guys I played with, growing up, from Little League through high school and Legion ball, they started a Townball team in East Grand Forks. Maybe like 2004, 2005, something like that. So they had been going a couple years, and I've been talking to them for a while. I'm like, well, if I'll be back in the summer, and I'll play and that sort of thing. So, so that was kind of my first exposure, and kind of being from up there at the time. I think in our section, there was only like 5 teams, and it's good to see right now. It seems like that Red River League has really kind of grown and expanded. So it's really, as a person that's from that area, it's really cool to see, them having a 10-team league up there as opposed to, a 5-team league or whatever. But yeah, it's basically we played like Roseau, Warroad, Crookston, Ada, I think it was. That was basically our schedule every year.
Ada, they're always pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're always pretty. I mean, yeah. Ada is always solid. Crookston was pretty good at the time, getting older though. But yeah, so I played 2006. I think we lost in the game to go to state that year. And I had to go back to North Carolina because I had a semester left, and I ended up staying in North Carolina one more year for. I ended up working in the athletic department and kind of the media relations department for the second half. Well, the whole year, but I had finished the year there. So then I came back in 2007, I was planning on going to grad school at St. Cloud. So I was back home again, obviously I was going to play again. And kind of the one thing, the start of kind of what, kind of turned me on to, kind of what was going on in the rest of the state. We found the Nimrod tournament. I don't know if you guys have heard stories or familiar with that. So we found that one, and my parents have a cabin about 30 minutes from there. And, it was like, oh, this is something different, So we enjoyed that. And, that year we had a great year, went to the state tournament, and 2007, we ended up played who was it? Winstead in Hamburg in the first round of the state tournament. And I kid you not, there was probably like 700 to 1,000 people there. And my eyes were just like, what is this? What is going on? I mean, I get it now. It's Winstead's 10 minutes away from Hamburg or whatever it is. And it was a wild atmosphere. And we lost in extra innings. And, I think Winstead ended up getting like third or fourth that year. But yeah, just the atmosphere of that, I'm just like, holy crap, is this what this is all about? And, that kind of, that game stuck with me. And it's like, well, man, if it's anything like this, getting the state tournament, I'm going to do this every year. So
yeah, that was kind of your welcome to Townball moment.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, that was kind of it. But yeah, I ended up playing one more year for East Grand Forks. After I was done in St. Cloud, I got a job in Mankato in the summer of 2009 working for the Moondogs for the summer. Ended up going to Creighton in Omaha. So I was away from Townball for a couple of years. After Creighton came back to Minnesota, me and my wife were trying to move back to the cities at the time. And then, I started with the LoGators in 2012. So didn't actually play for about 3 or 4 years. So, but yeah, so it's been, I guess it'll be 13 years now, I guess, this coming season, something like that. So yeah, that's kind of the,
how long have you
kind of the journey. What's that?
How long you managed him? The whole time?
2000. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. I guess 2016. Okay. 2016. Yeah. I blew out my shoulder, so I wasn't playing that year. And that was kind of when I took it over, 2016. So yeah.
So how did you get onto the LoGators? Where did that kind of relationship start? How did that start? Now you mentioned moving back to the cities, but did you know someone on the team or?
Yep. No, I had a coworker at the time, and he played for the LoGators. In general conversation, 5 days in, he was, 5 days into my new job, he was trying to get me on the team. So, but, at that time, it was, there was a Maple Grove team at the time. I had reached out to them, and then this was like 2000. Oh boy. Yeah. Like 2011, because at that time I couldn't have played for the LoGators because I actually lived inside the loop back when they had the loop rule.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I kind of reached out to a team, and then I decided not to play. And then me and my wife bought a house literally like a block outside the loop, in Brooklyn Center, right by the high school. So he's like, well, you got no excuse now. Our field's like 10 minutes away. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So, so yeah, I ended up starting with them in 2012. And, it was a really, it still is, we still have, we still got 3 or 4 guys, on the team that were, on the team in 2012. Largely the roster's turned over, but being, the team itself, the guys on the team reminded me a lot of the guys that I played with, growing up in East Grand Forks. Just a bunch of dirt bags and guys with dirt chips on their shoulders. And, we weren't the most, weren't the most sportsmanlike players. Not that I necessarily like that, but, it was that kind of, chip on the shoulder, competitiveness, grit. And the personalities on the team were really big. And I don't consider myself to have a big personality, but I like being around those sort of people. Yeah. So, it was just, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, but yeah, I know, and like I said, it's kind of continued on, with, a lot of younger guys now, and a lot of but they're all really good guys, and it keeps me young. I don't feel like I'm 40. Sometimes the next morning after a game I roll out of bed, and then I feel 40, but it's at the ballpark I never do. Kind of like I said, it keeps me young. So but yeah, that's kind of how I got that's how I got hooked up with the team, and now I'm stuck with them. So.
Here we are. Rest is history, right?
Rest is history. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So makeup of your team, I was kind of trying to browse through the roster a couple days ago, and it looked like there's a few of you that have been on the team for double-digit years, and then a few kind of in like the 5 to 9 kind of range. So you kind of have a pretty solid range of I guess age, from kind of maybe fresh out of high school, early in the college, to maybe where yourself is at, or someone else on the team too. So how is that? I guess people who, I guess players who are first coming to the team, do they kind of understand like what you guys are about like right away, or is there kind of that adjustment period for them too?
I think so. Yeah, we started. We really started. Trying to think. We really started like recruiting like when I started kind of managing the team. In like 2016, that's when we really started to make conscious effort to like actually go out and like put effort into getting new players and that sort of thing. And kind of around that time, a lot those years, kind of 16, 17, 18, it's I think a lot of the guys didn't, when they, there are a lot of them, most of them were in high school when we were signing these guys. I think a lot of them didn't really know what they were getting into at first, that sort of thing. They weren't sure what it was all about. But, that kind of, it's kind of borne out to, be true, is that, they get it pretty quick, and I would say, the last couple of years, I feel like, some of the younger guys that are coming on the team and are, just starting in Townball, they seem to have a little bit better idea of what they're getting into compared to, when I was kind of first starting out as a manager. And I think a lot of that has to do with kind of like the club scene, the club baseball scene. I feel like all these club coaches, for specific teams they play Townball. I'll look at, the MASH website. It's like, oh, there's, Tony, what's his name? Tony. Those guys play for Newmarket. So I think that kind of really helps some of these younger kids coming in to know what they're getting into and be prepared for what they're getting into. And I think the exposure is a lot better than what it was, even 7-8 years ago. I think there's a few different things. Like I said, it's kind of, club coaches, just online reach, promotion, the state tournament, obviously too helps, but yeah, just there's more exposure to it than there was, when I first started. So I think that helps out a lot too. So
absolutely.
Yeah. No. And kids, yeah. And like kids just understand it's going to be pretty good competition. I don't think they were aware of that, 7-8 years ago, but I think they know what the, competition level is, especially in, Class B, I guess now Class A, but they understand that, you're probably going to be facing college pitchers and college hitters, a vast majority of the time. So, I think there's that understanding's a little bit better too. So,
so looking at it, it looks like you've made a few decent amount of state tournament appearances and kind of your tenure there. It looks like there's been a few top 4 finishes in your time. Have we broken over the hump to get to the promised land yet, or not quite?
No, not yet. not yet. We're so damn close. It's it's a little, we can taste it. That's for sure. And it's kind of one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things we talk about it now. I never really talked about it before, but it's like, we talk about it now. So guys kind of expect it and they want it. And, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was 21. Let's see here. Well, we made 16, 17, 18, and 19. We lost in the first round, all 4 years. And then 20, we finally won a game and then lost to Me's theme here. 20, Meesville knocked us out. 21, we ended up getting third. Meesville knocked us out. 22, we made it to the championship game. We knocked Meesville out at their home park. Really fun, by the way. Highly recommend. 10 of 10, knocking Meesville out of the state tournament. So second that year, kind of crapped the bed in 23, lost the first round. And then this past year, Meesville again knocked us out. So
Meesville's like the Yankees too.
kind of. Well, it's funny. It's kind. I'd like to call it a rivalry, but when you've only beat them once in however many tries, I don't know if you can call it that, but I mean, we've played a lot of really good games against them, and I think I'm trying to think now. I think we have 5 or 6 St. Cloud State guys on the roster. And I know they have a bunch of St. Cloud guys on the roster too. So there's a lot of the guys know each other pretty well when we play each other. So it's created a little bit of a rivalry. I'd like to call it. But like I said, if you beat them 1 in 15 tries, it's tough to call it that. But I would say that knocking them out at their home park that might have been my favorite win that we've ever had in our history or whatever. So
was it Chan who beat you in the championship then, right?
No, it was Rochester, because that was Chan's last year, and they got up. Coon Rapids upset them in the first round that year.
Okay.
Yeah. So Chan was out, and Rochester was just as good, if not better. But that one makes me sick. The Rochester game, we had to beat them twice, but we had the lead in the 12th inning. They scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 12th, and we would have had, our number, essentially our number 2 pitcher fresh, ready to go. And they had really nobody. So I think Meyer had pitched against us that Friday, and then he came in to relieve that championship game through 4 innings. So there's no way he was going to be able to go the next day, and they had thrown their, I guess they would have brought back Mateo, their number 2 guy. I'm guessing that's what they would have done. But yeah, they were going to be really thin, and we had our number 2 ready to go. So if we would have won that game, I feel like we would have had a really good shot. Same this year. We lost to Meesville in the semis, and again, we had it set up where we had our number 2 pitcher, ready to go fresh for the championship game, and they beat us by 1 run, and Air Freight runs out a high school kid, and they get crushed. It's just like, ugh. So it's it's those. I guess the 22 one, I don't know, for whatever it hurts. That one hurt a little bit more. I don't know. They both hurt. They both suck. I don't know if one hurts more than the other.
I don't remember easy, right?
Yeah, it's like, they keep me up at night sometimes, but it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. So. Yeah. We like to bring it up on a show once in a while, but there's obviously, as as a coach, there's no moral victories and losses, right? You lose, it sucks. No one likes it, but is it? I want to say is it nice to know, but it's got to be nice for like maybe some of these younger guys who haven't experienced it as much to get takes to be like, hey, we lost. Let's drive even harder this next year, see what we can do. I'm sure that's probably a message that maybe you don't even have to say. Like I would just think maybe at this point they just kind of know, like, yeah, this sucks. Like, let's not do it next year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff. A lot of that attitude's driven by our players. I try not to say too much. sometimes during, the state tournament, I'll give the rah sort of shit,
Yep. Yep.
But I don't have to do it too much. They know, guys know, and I think they want it. And, if you kind of look a little bit closer at the makeup of the roster, it's, we're pretty intentional about the guys that we get. And, if you look at the relationships of the players on the teams, I want to say we got like 10 or 11, Blaine graduates, probably more than that actually, but a lot of guys that are teammates in college and
already have some of that chemistry built before they're even.
Yeah. It's we're trying to be intentional about building, some of that chemistry and that sort of thing. So, I mean, when you got, guys that played together, their whole lives, more or less, they're gonna hold each other, accountable to a certain extent, So, but yeah, no, like I said, it's been, the chemistry is really good. The vibes are good, as the kids say. So, it's just still trying to take that next step and kind of get over the hump. Yep. Hopefully next year. We'll see.
Yep. Pieces are there.
They're there.
Absolutely. Now, what is a LoGator? I've always wondered. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's an obvious answer, and I'm just an idiot, which I am. So
no, it's not obvious. It's not obvious. That's for sure. So the guy, Nick Larson, is the guy that started the team. I believe he used the name. He used the name for like his. I think he was at Anoka Ramsey, and he used it for intramural basketball team name. And the origination is, I guess there was a minor league basketball team in South Carolina called the LoGators. This is what I was told. But a LoGator is a alligator that hangs out on the golf courses in Hilton Head Island, and it's very low-lying land in that area. So put the two together, you got a LoGator.
Interesting.
Huh.
Yep.
You probably could have
learned something on the
10,000 guesses, and I don't think I would have ever gotten it.
No, I would. Yeah, people are like, oh, and then nobody's like, oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You would have got.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's a very informative podcast we got going on today.
There we go. Yeah,
educational.
You learn something new. Learn something new. Listen to you guys, right?
Yeah. It's you that's bringing the knowledge to us.
Yeah, well, you guys need if you don't, you guys need a mascot. I mean, come on, the LoGators. You need it.
Man, if I had the budget,
you can call him Gaylord.
Gaylord the Gator. Right? That's got a ring to it. Yeah, that'd be nice. But it's we actually we didn't have a logo up until like a few years ago. We always just had like a C, or an L on our hats, for my first few years. And then we had a guy that joined the team. His girlfriend at the time was a graphic designer, and I'm like, hey, can you like make us a logo? And she did this, and
I like it.
Yeah. God bless her, she still does. She'll still do stuff for us, and for whatever it may be. We had a couple banners we've had her do, and some programs, and some helmet stickers and that sort of thing. And she works at a sign shop in Blaine, and she treats us really well. Whenever I'm not knocking down her door every week, but whenever I need something, I know I can call her and she'll hook us up. So that's nice. That's one thing that's off my plate. So that's good.
Absolutely. Now talk to me a little bit about the community. LoGator games, we get a pretty solid support. People like coming out to watch, and it's a good atmosphere. Talk to me a little bit about what the home park vibes are like.
Yeah, so we play our home games in Brooklyn Park, park called Noble Sports Park. And if you've kind of been up kind of on the north side of the cities, it's right on 610, butts up against 610. I will say, just like attendance and like atmosphere, not a ton usually. And, I think that for most, it's pretty standard, I guess, for most Class A teams, most of the city teams, it's not like going to, Plato on a Sunday afternoon or, Meesville or any of the Crow River teams or North Star teams.
There's a lot of stuff to do at Brooklyn Park.
Well, yeah. There's a few things to do, but yeah, it's I mean, it's interesting though. I mean, and I think it's kind of goes back to what I said just about, kind of the game getting more exposure. In the last few years, we've kind of got a little bit of coverage from the local, hyper local, paper. The reporter will come out to the game, and I'm starting to get more like messages on like Facebook and Twitter from people like asking about the games and where the park is, do I have to pay to get in, and that sort of thing. And I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm getting a few more of those sort of messages. Awesome. Seeing that sort of interest. I mean, it's not like we're not getting like 100 random people at our games. Mostly, families and girlfriends and that sort of thing. But but we literally have a couple like real fans that like show up to a majority of the games, which is, it's only a couple, but it still blows my mind. But yeah, I mean, I think that's always going to be a challenge. The challenge in the the cities, and there's not many of us. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that are actually local to the Champlin Park High School or Brooklyn Park or whatever. So I mean, it's kind of a little tough to kind of, I guess, promote ourselves or kind of, I guess, maybe like get sponsorships or that sort of thing. So but it's, and I guess it's a product of, I mean, you look at a lot of probably these Crow North Star, a lot of these traditional small town ish Class C teams, they've been around a long time. We've only been in existence since 2007, I think. So and our league has only been in existence for maybe a couple years before that. So just the history isn't there as some of those leagues. I mean, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, maybe there's a little bit more a little bit more awareness. I think that's going to be a slow burn and always a little bit of a challenge, kind of when you're kind of a main rung suburb or in the city itself and that sort of thing. But like I said, I mean, there's definitely certain games where there's some teams that they'll bring out little decent crowds and that sort of thing. And it helps too at Noble. They just did a bunch of renovations at our home park, so we got like a covered grandstand and press box.
That's awesome.
Speaker system doesn't work, but I mean, one step at a time, baby steps, So
we cross our fingers every time that our national anthem works.
Yeah. No, that's how it goes. So there's some incremental, small changes that, I think, will help maybe bring out a few more fans here and there. But like I said, it's still, I mean, it's kind of, we're used to it. We don't mind. So,
and whether
right.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, I'm sure you would agree with this, like, regardless if you have like, 2 of those, non-relation to the player type fans, or you have 2,000, just to have people come and watch you play baseball that nobody's getting paid to do. You're doing it for the love of the game. It's got to be pretty special. And I'm sure like everyone would probably agree with that on the squad.
Oh yeah. I mean, we appreciate, we definitely appreciate everybody that comes out to watch. And, maybe, kind of maybe, a sign of things to come too. Our section tournament attendance was the best, I think the best it's ever been, this past year. And we've typically done it at Coon Rapids, which has fields back to back, but we had to separate it this year because Coon Rapids couldn't host. So we were a little worried about, multiple sites, that taken away, but it didn't didn't really face things at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, maybe that's, you know, I'm going to take that as a good sign that there's a little more interest kind of, you know, growing a little bit, you know, so.
I agree. So you mentioned blew the arm out a while ago. Are we still getting at bats during the game? What is what is the player Matt Marek sound like these days?
Oh yeah. So I've I've tried not to play the last couple of years, but you know, it always kind of ends up where, you know, I usually find myself behind the dish, you know, I would say 10 to 20 games a year, you know, that sort of thing. You know, we had, you know, one of our catchers couldn't catch this year, I think. And so I had to end up catching, you know, another one of our catchers. He's a club coach, you know, he's the pitching instructor at Pine Tar. So he's gone a lot for tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got a high school kid, or he's at St. Cloud now, but a high school kid this past summer. So you know, obviously being a high school kid, you got other stuff going on into, you know, mid-June and that sort of stuff too. So, you know, I found myself back there. Oh yeah, I'd say 15, maybe about 15 games. I think I had about 40 or 50 at bats this year, you know, and that's kind of, I'm okay with that. You know, it's, I don't want to be the guy that hangs on, you know, too long, that sort of thing. Even though I felt pretty good, you know, by the end of the year, I felt pretty good out there. And, yeah, just trying to, yeah, keep the team moving forward. And I guess I don't want my plane or, you know, my plane, you know, to hold that back at all. But I don't know. I still felt, I mean, I threw out 4 or 6 runners in the state tournament this year. So
nice.
Yeah. Good for me.
Pudge Rodriguez, who?
Yeah, right. So, usually, it takes a little bit of time to get going at the beginning of the season, but you know, by middle of year, end of year, I usually, you know, I feel pretty good for the most part. But there's just a lot of it's really tough to play and manage at the same time. I'll say that. So it's okay. It's okay by me if I'm, you know, only getting, you know, 20, 30, 40 at bats, whatever. That's fine by me, you know. So I'm really tempted. I'm really tempted to do, you know, kind of do some 35 plus ball, you know, federal league on top of it. But my wife already hates me enough, so it's so that's probably you know, limited to, you know, absolute emergency situations. So yeah, I'm on the Minoka Grays roster. So I know we got, which would be fun. Nick Larson, like I mentioned, the guy who started the team, he's with Minoka. Jeff Hoyer, who plays with us, he still gets about 100 at bats with us. He's on Minoka's roster. Dustin Wolf, he was playing. He was playing when I started. He's on the roster, so it's like oh, it'd be so fun to play with those guys, you know, a little bit. But
yeah,
you know, like I said, I got a wife and kids that, you know, don't like me very much during the summer at times. So yeah, it is what it is.
Now, how did you get into catching? Was Pudge the inspiration, or what was your intro to the catching world? Where did that come from?
My dad. You know, it's when my dad wasn't a catcher. You know, he was a first. It's kind of fun. He was a 5'10" defensive specialist type first baseman. So,
wow.
But he always said that, you know, I remember him always, even when I was like a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, he's like, you know, everybody always needs pitchers and catchers. And, you know, just, I think the being involved in every pitch, you know, essentially, that was really attractive to me, and being able to be involved in the game and kind of control the game at that level. That was, you know, that was, you know, I love that piece of it. So, right in my first year playing, you know, kid pitch, overhand pitch, whatever, it's like, I'm going to catch, you know, and, you know, it's stuck, and, yeah, it's still doing it. So, yeah, it's just, yeah, like I said, being involved in every play, and, you know, kind of being able to, lead the charge back there is just, I don't know. I love the mental game. Just figuring out hitters, seeing what they're doing in the batter's box, from an adjustment standpoint, on, from a pitch to pitch, at bat to bat standpoint. It's, I like the chess game of it, and trying to, kind of execute, help the pitcher execute, their plan, that sort of thing. So, always, like I said, always been a catcher. Be catching till I can't squat down anymore. So.
Have you ever dabbled in any other positions? Like roots, more than I'll come and pitch an inning kind of thing, or pretty much just catcher?
Honestly, in high school, I pitched a lot.
Okay.
And then my first, Townball, when I was with East Grand Forks, I pitched for 3 years. Started with the LoGators. I kind of was the closer my first year playing. My second and third years, I was, number one pitcher on top. So the old LoGators, we would score, 8-9 runs a game, but give up 12, and 6 of which were unearned. That's kind of how it's kind of how we rolled back then. But I pitched for maybe, I think it was 3 years. And of course, go figure, that's how I blew out my arm, trying to throw 50 innings, and only, throwing maybe 2 or 3 preseason bullpens beforehand. So, so that's how that happened. But other than that, pretty much, catcher pitcher, pretty much, kind of in my amateur. Obviously, I didn't pitch at all in college or anything like that, but Townball in high school, I pitched a lot. And I actually made, I'm trying to think, I think I made three appearances on the mound this year. First time I pitched in 8 or 9 years.
And how'd it feel?
Well, to make sure I don't, mess up my arm again, I'm like under here. I'm straight submarine.
Oh, really?
So,
wow. Okay.
So it's a little easier on the shoulder that way. So, it felt good. Never had any, pain or anything the next day. So that was
good.
That was good. But that's about, I don't know. I don't know if I'd try to pitch, much more beyond, kind of, emergency type outings. It's just kind of the nature of all the outings this year. Nobody left. It's like, what the hell, let's do it. So.
Yeah, for sure. One of the last couple questions I have for you here. Again, another question I like to ask everyone, because everyone's answer is a little bit different. But when you are in Townball, and I'm sure throughout your whole life, you have had people that have asked you, "Oh, what is town? Oh, I played town. What is that? What is Townball?" Like I always like the common thing that I get is like, "Oh, is it like beer league softball?" And I'm like, "Well, no, not really." So sometimes I struggle to answer that. So if you have ever gotten that question, what is typically your kind of go-to, maybe elevator pitch of this is what Townball is to people?
Yeah, it usually gets long-winded because I like to talk about it.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
It's usually, and that's how it starts out. Usually it's like, oh, softball? That's I would say 9 times out of 10, telling people I play baseball, they're like, oh, you'll like softball, right? I know, real baseball. But I kind of just go in and I just start talking, and it's like, I play for this team. I run this team. Basically, every player on this, I would say, essentially every player on our roster is playing college baseball or has played college baseball. We play against similar teams around the city. I kind of go into how, I do the spiel, how Minnesota is kind of the state of Townball. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the country in terms of amount of teams and, following. And, I talk about, I usually go into like, some of these, amazing fields that we, get to play at on an annual basis, and, the state tournament, and, in the name of brevity, those are kind of the talking points that, I usually hit. So, Yeah, it usually turns into like a 5 or 10 minute explanation, but I think your audience is probably, made a speech similar to mine, at some point or another, over their lives. But yeah, it's people, people, there's still a decent amount of people that, I guess don't know what it's all about, but at the same time, it's like somebody, I'll start talking about, it's like, oh, yeah, my friend plays for St. Louis Park, my college roommate plays for, Isani, or, I'll run into people, if we start talking ball and that sort of thing, there's definitely seems to be a lot more connection to it in that regard, and people kind of being familiar just because, there's 300 teams, there's a lot of people that out there that play. So, but yeah, it's like I said, it's usually a lot more long-winded explanation than what I just gave. But yeah, those are usually the talking points that I use.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's great. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that was definitely for me. Being from Colorado, no prior experience to it, and I went to college here in Mankato for 4 years, and then would always go home during the summer. So like I would have people on the team that would talk about it. I'm like, I have no what are you talking about, So it probably wasn't until I moved back out here in 2020 and joined the team, Arlington, and I'm on now. And then really like this last year, like having a larger role on the team, certainly grateful for that helped out a lot too. But just being at like the state tournament in person as much as I could, and I'm like, there are like hundreds of thousands of people here like every single weekend, and like this is just awesome. I mean, it's so cool.
It's wild. It's wild, and it's I think I'm trying to remember. We had, I know Class B attendance was pretty similar to last year, but I felt like the crowds were bigger, even though the numbers didn't bear that out. I felt like the number. I always felt like at our state tournament, at our 4 state tournament games this year, I felt there was a lot of people there at every single game, and even like even our first round game, we played St. Paul Hops at Shakopee, and it's like that's St. Paul League. I don't think any of those teams have any following whatsoever, for the most part. But like I looked up in the crowd, and like the stand, the grandstand looked like half full, and I'm like, where are all these people coming from, to watch us two, but yeah, I mean, it was, yeah, I felt like, I felt like, attendance was pretty good, even though the numbers, said it was maybe a little bit down from last year. But
were you at the state C championship game?
I was not. No, I was.
Yeah, that was in Jordan. That was packed.
See, I was following it online and following on Twitter, and like I saw some shots out there, and videos and pictures, and that looked nuts. That looked absolutely nuts.
I mean, the line of cars leaving was all the way from the parking lot at the field to the highway. I mean,
it's crazy.
There was a lot of people at that game.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, what was it? I think two.
Man, I mean, granted, it helped that the home Jordan was in it, and it's.
Oh, yeah, that helps. That definitely helps. Yeah. But no, I mean, it was. I mean, 2 years ago, Class B. I mean, it was. What was it? Dundas and Miesville hosted, and they both made it. And there was some really, really solid crowds for that tournament too. I remember. I mean, when we knocked out Miesville, they had. I mean, they were out. Their fan base was out in full force. And then the championship game against Rochester, there was. I think the attendance for that one was like 600 or 700 too. That was nuts to me too. I mean, Rochester coming all the way up, and then us driving, us being over an hour away from Dundas. I couldn't believe the crowd was as big as it was for that one 2 years ago. But it's just so insane sometimes when I still can't believe it. I've been around it for better part of 20 years. So, but always fun to see though. No, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Awesome, Matt. Well, I think we're at the end of our time with things here that I have, at least. Are there any other things with Townball that you wanted to bring up, or anything that we maybe missed that you wanted to to chat about or plug or throw out there, it's kind of the spotlight's for you now, pal.
Yeah. Well, if you don't follow us, LoGator Baseball on Twitter,
I'm gonna go check right now if I do.
Yeah, there you go. Give us a follow. No, I mean it's been a really good run for myself, and yeah, I'm lucky to be able to do it, lucky to be involved, and really lucky to play with the guys that I have on the team right now. We, like I said, we talk about it on our team all the time. I think we have something special, and a core, kind of our core of talent right now is right in that kind of 22 to 25, 26 range. So, I think we got a lot of years of success ahead of us. So, yeah, it's just, like I said, I'm lucky guy to be able to do it. So,
really, that's cool. Mm-hmm. It makes it easy when everyone's bought in and has the same love and passion for the game that you do too, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it's the guys love the game. They're competitors, and it's they're we're as competitive off the field as we are on it. Which if that wasn't the case, I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not if I were ever part of a team that just played the game and went home. Most nights, like I said, I probably wouldn't do it. But it's the camaraderie and the type of guys we have on the team that just keep you coming back. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome, Matt. Well, we greatly appreciate you coming on the show and taking time out of your life to join us. Obviously putting the kiddo to bed too right beforehand too. We certainly appreciate that.
Right when I hang up, I might crash on the couch here and fall asleep. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yes, absolutely. But just know, Matt, you're certainly welcome to come back anytime. Open invite with us. It was unbelievable time.
No, I appreciate, guys. It was it's a lot of fun talking about it, and talking to guys like yourself that are as passionate about it too. I could go all night. But I'm fucking tired tonight, so maybe not.
That is totally fair. All right, folks. Thank you for listening. As for myself, Nick, and Matt, until next time, we are out.